The Raw after Bash in Berlin is now in the books. A pretty mid-show overall, especially by recent Raw standards. We've gotten some really good Raw shows, some really exciting ones. This was not one of the better ones. There was nothing earth-shattering. There was really nothing great outside of one great angle involving CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, but also nothing overly terrible. But the best part of the show did involve CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, who, according to Punk last night after his match, was done with Drew McIntyre. He was moving on. He had his sights set on the World Heavyweight Championship. He had his eye on either Gunther or Randy Orton. Whoever walked out of Bash in Berlin with the title, he was done with Drew. But Drew said the same thing about Punk after he beat him at SummerSlam. So you had to know that wasn't going to be the case. But we now know who will be challenging Gunther, even though it's not made official yet, but they made it pretty clear what the direction is and who is going to be next in line for the World Heavyweight Championship. And it may be somebody that you weren't expecting. We'll talk about who that was. We also had two more triple threat matches in the tournament to crown a number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship to complete the field of four competing next week, because there will be a fatal four-way, basically fighting to see who will lose to Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. That's what they should rechristen this thing as. Who gets to lose to Braun Breaker? We're going to find out next week. And there was one gnarly injury to Kairi Sane that I hope is not too serious, but basically the woman looked like she broke her face on a diving elbow drop to the floor that did not go according to plan. And there was a table, there was the edge of the table, and did not end well for poor Kairi. I will show you the damage later. Yeah, she's part of Damage Control. You talk about damage control. Unfortunately, she did some damage all right. One thing that was not on the show tonight, and I was actually very curious if we would get it based on news reports that were circulating earlier in the day. There was no new developments in the New Day storyline. Outside of one brief story, or segment, I should say, in the back with Kofi Kingston and Adam Pearce. And again, it was very brief. It maybe wasn't even a full minute. But it was Kofi in the back pitching Adam Pearce on a proposition basically for him and Xavier Woods to challenge the Judgment Day for the tag team titles, because as Kofi very astutely pointed out in this segment, these guys have not defended their championships in 2 months. Hey, 2 more and they'll catch up with the Young Bucks. They didn't defend their titles for 4 months. So they got a little catching up to do there. Of course, Finn Balor and JD McDonough, they were in the Raw main event tonight. Non-title, of course. The titles were not on the line, and they lost. Because champs are chumps. Especially the Judgment Day. This new version of the Judgment Day, that's a good word to sum it up, chumps. So they were in the main event, titles were not on the line. Explain to me, I keep asking this question, nobody has given me a good answer. Explain to me why these titles had to be split at WrestleMania. Still haven't gotten a good answer to that. But outside of that one quick segment, there was no Xavier Woods, and there was no Odyssey Jones. But there was controversy involving Odyssey Jones, because earlier today it was pointed out that Odyssey Jones was removed from the roster page on WWE.com. Now, nobody has confirmed that he is out of the company. Nobody has confirmed that he's not. And I know Fightful, for one, and maybe other websites have tried to confirm with WWE. And I have not seen, up to this point, I have not seen any indication of what his status is, which is a very weird situation, because you would imagine that if it was a freak occurrence, if it was something like an accident or something, that it would have been cleared up right away. The fact that it hasn't been tells me that there's something going on here. And if he is gone for whatever reason, and I'm not even going to speculate on why he may or may not be gone, because we don't know. But if Odyssey Jones is gone for whatever reason, that does throw a monkey wrench into the New Day storyline, which was only first now starting to get interesting, because I have not cared about this New Day Final Testament stuff, which has been dragging on for months now, until the stuff that they've done over these last several weeks with the introduction of Odyssey Jones. Now things have started to get very interesting involving those three men. So this throws a giant monkey wrench. Not that they can't work around it. If they have, a longer-term story involving Woods and Kofi, they can still find a way to play it out. It just makes it more difficult. But, I was just watching NXT No Mercy last night, which just so happened to also be in Denver, which is where Raw was tonight. And I saw Tony D'Angelo was on that show. He was challenging for the North American Championship. He was in the ring wrestling Oba Femi. I don't know, maybe Xavier Woods, he greased some palms and paid off Tony D and his boys to take care of old Odyssey and just do him a favor, Xavier Woods has not been very fond of Odyssey Jones on TV lately. So maybe he went to Tony D and, Tony D, Jersey style, went and did Xavier Woods a favor. I'll tell you what, though, if they did, I bet you one thing, though. Odyssey Jones, he don't need no cement boots. Odyssey Jones, they don't got to worry about Odyssey Jones. Odyssey Jones, he ain't going to float. So you don't got to worry about that. But Monday Night Football is back next week. So, of course, just in time, they are promoting the Raw show next Monday as the season premiere, as they have done the last several years. So we have the season premiere of Raw coming up next Monday. And also, they were promoting the fact that all three shows, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, are all going to be airing starting next week on the USA Network. And for the next 3 weeks are going to be airing with limited commercial interruption. That's according to what they said in the commercial. This Friday is their final show on Fox. The final SmackDown on Fox is upon us. We got one more to go, and then SmackDown moves back to USA. Not a day too soon. This is your Monday Night Raw review. It is the first Raw review for the month of September. It is September 2nd, 2024. I am the Solomonster. Thank you so much for starting off your September with yours truly. Do me a favor, hit that like button. We were already well over 100 likes before I went live tonight, which is a great sign. So hit that thumbs up. Super chats are open. You will see them popping up on your screen.
Samoa Bro.
There's our boy Samoa Bro joining us here. Hopefully the first of many. So that is what you can do there if you want to send your messages in. If you missed it, a little bit of house cleaning here for a second.
It's Samoa Bro.
Wow, he heard me. There he is for the second time. Samoa Bro, back to back, bro. If you missed it, the Bash in Berlin review is up. We had a PLE on Saturday. I was live after the show. You can get the full recap here on YouTube. If you missed it, go check that out. Also, I want to make mention of this. Did a deep dive on the career of Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid, who had a very interesting career, to say the least. And you can go ahead and check out my full obituary. Fortunately, Sid passed away last week. So over 30 minutes talking Sid, his career, his legacy, some of the incidents that he was involved in, including the origins of Squeegee Sid, and of course the scissors incident, among other things. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I worked hard on it, and Sid was a part of my wrestling fandom as a young wrestling fan. So I wanted to talk about my memories and his famous matches and infamous matches, among other things. So that is up as well. So go ahead and give that a listen and leave some feedback. And let me know what you thought of that. The show tonight opened a little bit differently because Raw opened with Wade Barrett in the ring. And he was there to welcome everybody to Monday Night Raw. We usually don't see Wade Barrett. Usually he's on SmackDown, but for the next few months, he is going to be on Monday nights, and he's going to be joined by the new voice, the new temporary voice of Monday Night Raw until they move to Netflix and then everything flip-flops. But for the time being, he introduced the voice of Raw, Joe Tessitore, from ABC and ESPN. He is now the new voice on Monday nights. And Tessitore was gushing over the European PLE crowds, and he compared them to Denver Broncos fans. And then they cut to a shot of the crowd, and that was our transition into a recap package for Bash in Berlin. So let's talk about Joe Tessitore here for a couple minutes, because this was his first night. And Joe Tessitore is a very experienced veteran. He's not a rookie. He's been doing play-by-play for college sports and NFL and all sorts of sports and all sorts of shows now for at least 2 decades, maybe longer. So he's a veteran broadcaster. But he has not done wrestling before. He is a wrestling fan. He is up on the storylines. He is up on the characters. He, for ESPN, was leading their coverage of WrestleMania 40 this year in Philadelphia and doing all kinds of interviews with talent. So he's not somebody that, Nick Khan plucked from the sports world, and he's not really a wrestling guy, and he's got to learn about it. He knows what he needs to know about WWE. He's got product knowledge, which helps. I thought that he had a good first outing. There is room for improvement, but I think he had a good first outing, and when you look at some of the other faces and voices that they have tried in this spot over the last many months, go all the way back to Adnan Virk, another sports personality Nick Khan brought in. He's looking at his Rolodex, going through names. Adnan Virk was the first one. That didn't work out. Jimmy Smith was the next one. That really was a little bit better, but that didn't work out because he got shit canned. And there have been other people they've tried in different spots. Pat McAfee, he's worked out, although Pat, it doesn't necessarily, not everybody is a Pat McAfee fan. But I like Pat. Pat's gone, though, for a few months for college football. So now it was time to try out somebody new, and that's why Joe Tessitore got the spot. Michael Cole has been doing this job for 25 years. All right, I mean, he's been with the company longer than that, but he got his start with SmackDown in 99. Actually, not even SmackDown. When Jim Ross got sick, he started earlier that year. But he's been doing this for 25 years. And now the cuffs are off, too, because Vince McMahon isn't there. He doesn't have the madman in his ear. And so Michael Cole is able to even be more himself and more relaxed on commentary, and his commentary has improved greatly from what it was even a few years ago, because he was still working within the restrictions of Vince McMahon. But he's been doing this for 25 years. And I don't think anybody should expect that Joe Tessitore or anyone else is going to be able to step in on day one and be what Michael Cole is. It's impossible. You can't do it. This is his first night as a wrestling commentator. But it's a tough spot to be in because Michael Cole has been the voice of Raw now for several months, and now he is stepping into his shoes. It's kind of like when Michael Cole took over from Jim Ross, and he was unfairly maligned just for not being Jim Ross, back in 2008, and that was a tough spot for him to be in. I don't think Tessitore is going to face that kind of scrutiny the way that Michael Cole did. I thought that he was definitely lacking in the enthusiasm department in certain spots, and in other spots he had plenty of enthusiasm. So, in that regard, it was a very mixed bag, I thought. It's a fine line that you have to walk because you don't want to come off as forced. You don't want the enthusiasm to come off as overly rehearsed, or you're forcing it. That's not what you want. It has to come natural. One thing that came natural to him, he felt very relaxed and sort of at peace with everything when he was doing commentary for the matches and doing the play-by-play, although he was very low. I thought he was a little too monotone for a good chunk of the show. That would be my other critique. I do think, though, it's just a matter of him getting his feet wet and getting better at it as time goes on. I thought if this was an indication of how things are going to go, I think they have a winner here. But it's just going to take time for him to get acclimated, and for us as the fans, as the viewers, to get acclimated to his announcing style. Everybody has their own style. Jim Ross had his own style. Mauro Ranallo has his own style. Michael Cole, everybody has their own style. So it'll just take some time. He sounded relaxed, I thought, for the matches. Maybe a little too relaxed for some of them. But I thought the thing he really shined on was the best segment of the night, which was the CM Punk Drew McIntyre angle. I actually thought he did a really good job with that. And one of the things that I noticed is when Drew McIntyre showed up and he was in a hoodie, if this was any other WWE announcer any other year, how did these segments always go? Somebody shows up, you and I know who it is, right? But they have to play dumb. And they're like, who is that? Who is this part, right? Tessitore is like, hey, that's Drew McIntyre in a hoodie. I'm like, finally, somebody makes sense and states the obvious. So I got a kick out of that. I thought he did a really good job in that segment as McIntyre was just completely destroying CM Punk. And, he was sort of beside himself and talking about what a heinous attack it was. So I thought he shined there. So overall, I thought he did good. But there's definitely room for improvement. So if I had to give him a report card for night number 1 for Joe Tessitore, I would give him a B. I would give him a B, maybe a B plus if I'm feeling generous. But I think he's going to do okay. Now remember, he'll be doing SmackDown in January when Cole and McAfee come back to Raw, and I believe it'll be a 3-man booth, which may help him even more because then he won't have to carry the load as much. I noticed it in the opening matches. He was very quiet at times where normally Michael Cole would be making noise or Corey Graves would be making noise. So I wonder, working in a 3-man booth, which is what he'll be doing, he'll be working with Barrett and Corey on Fridays. That might be to his advantage. Rhea Ripley entered to start the show. She talked about her win with Damian Priest over Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio in Berlin. Said it's time for her to regain that which she never lost, which is the Women's World Championship. Dominik interrupted to the usual massive heat. His left eye was all messed up. Not as messed up as Kyrie would be later in the show. But his eye was all messed up. It was bloodshot. He had a black eye. So I don't know what spot that happened on Saturday, but obviously it happened there. He said Liv Morgan was still recovering from what Rhea did to her in Berlin. Dom said they were taken advantage of, and they were jet lagged. They didn't get much sleep for lots of different reasons, he said. Wink, wink. He said Liv wasn't afraid of Rhea. She beat her before. She'll beat her again. And he said that he would win the Intercontinental title and they would both be champion. So since Liv is not coming out, Rhea said that she wanted Dom to tell her that she would fight her anytime, any place. Well, guess what? Liv Morgan did come out. And she tried a cheap shot. Rhea, though, saw it coming and knocked her down. Then she turned her attention to Dominik. And that distraction allowed Liv to nail Rhea from behind, right in the knee. And Rhea ended up hanging upside down. I don't even know how this happened, but she basically fell out of the ring and she was hanging upside down. She got her leg all tied up in the ropes. And now she's just dangling. She's hanging outside the ring. And that was the spot. Some people were like, oh, was that an accident? No, it was not an accident. That was the spot. So Liv starts kicking at the leg, and then outside she gives Rhea a kiss on the cheek as Rhea is hanging upside down and all the blood is rushing to her head. Gives her a kiss on the cheek. Damian Priest runs out. Liv and Dom, they bailed, and Priest helped untangle Rhea, who was selling her leg. In the back, after a break, there were a bunch of trainers. They tried checking on Rhea's knee. She was screaming at them. Priest urged her, please let the trainers do their job. I'm going to go talk to Adam Pearce. I'm going to try to get a match with one of these clowns in the Judgment Day. He said, I need you at 100%. So promise me you'll let the trainers help you. She said, okay. So they're setting up an injury obstacle here for, well, it's one of two things. They're setting up an injury obstacle for Rhea heading into the inevitable match of Bad Blood with Liv for the World Heavyweight Championship, because a 100% healthy Rhea Ripley against a 100% healthy Liv Morgan, it's not really a fair fight. So they're trying to handicap Rhea. They're trying to, they're working a storyline injury here to give Liv something that she can try to exploit. Or they could be doing something else. They could be giving Rhea a built-in excuse if she loses. I don't think she's losing. I think it's the former and not the latter. But there's nothing wrong with them setting up an injury angle here for Rhea. Makes sense to me. We had a 6-person tag team match with American Made, Ivy Nile and the Creed brothers against the Alpha Academy, Otis, Tozawa, and Maxine Dupree. Tozawa got a hot tag to Otis midway through this. Otis hit Julius with a caterpillar, threw his entire body at Otis coming off the rope. Like, he just used his body as a weapon coming off the ropes and just wiped out Brutus. Eventually, Otis's momentum was stalled by a Brutus ball off the top rope that knocked him down. Maxine and Ivy both tagged in, and Maxine gave Ivy a Northern Lights suplex. Chad Gable gets up on the apron. He starts yelling at Maxine. Maxine gives him a kick to the head and knocks him off the apron. But then when she turns around, she eats a kick from Ivy, and then Ivy locks her in a Dragon Sleeper, and Maxine tapped out. So I wrote in my notes just one line here. I wrote, damn, Maxine's got moves. She's got some moves. She didn't tag in for very long. She was only in the match for maybe 30 seconds. 45 at the most. But look, she's making the most of what little time she's actually getting in the ring. But one thing I will say, this woman was raked over the coals not that many months ago by a lot of people because she just was not very good. And you feel bad for her because she got called up to the main roster a lot sooner than she had any business being called up. It's one thing to call somebody up if they're just going to be standing in the corner. If you're going to be a manager, if you're going to be a coach on TV, right? They wanted her to wrestle. But she didn't have the experience that everybody else has on the main roster. The main roster is supposed to be made up of people like the best of the best. The elite. No pun intended. And so you take somebody like her who gets called up, thrown into the deep end of the pool. And what is she going to say? No, I don't want the opportunity. Don't call me up. You know, of course, she's going to come to the main roster and she's going to do the best she can. But she just wasn't very good. And I'm not telling you she's fucking Mildred Burke right now. Okay? But she's made some noticeable improvements. And I thought she looked good here for the limited time that she was in the ring. So good on her. And I have to also say, it's amazing that Otis is still as over as he is when you consider the fact that Otis has not won a single match on television all year. We are now in September. This is the 9th month of 2024. Otis has not won a television match. But he's still over. People still like him. He's a charismatic guy. He's a likable guy. After the match, Gable got on the microphone. He told the fans to applaud the greatest fighting family in all of WWE. Oh, you don't want to piss off the Samoans now. The last thing you want to do is piss off the Samoans. You will not win that battle. He complained that his match with Uncle Howdy last week was supposed to be a singles match, but Howdy got his freak show family involved. Then he challenged the Wyatt Sicks to an 8-person street fight for next week, and he told Howdy to bring any 4 members from his crew. So the lights went dark. Uncle Howdy walked out on stage, and he had a microphone, and this was the first time that I can remember that we have gotten an Uncle Howdy promo live in front of the crowd. No distorted voice. It was Bo Dallas in a mask, but as Uncle Howdy. And he said that it's been 375 days since his sanity crumbled. I assume that corresponds to the day that Bray passed away. He said his past is in the void now. He said the silence is deafening, but he can still hear it. His life is no longer his. He said he and his crew will collect a debt. Nikki Cross, Dexter Lumis, Eric Rowan, Joe Gacy, they joined him on stage. And that was that. Now, I saw some people, I want to cut this off right away. I saw some people on my timeline who were laughing about the fact that Uncle Howdy appeared to be reading off of a teleprompter because there were a couple of times they cut to American Made standing in the ring. And if you look up, like like the 300 level, they had like a screen up in the top portion of the arena and you could see like captions. That wasn't a teleprompter. Those were closed captions. And they were actually lagging behind. It's not like the lines were there for him before he said them. So let's just cut that shit off right away. He was not reading off of a teleprompter. Those were closed captions that were being shown in the arena. And besides, like he's going to be able to look up, in that mask no less, he's going to look up all the way in the corner and be able to read what's being written on that screen. Come on. So I just wanted to clarify that. And so Nikki Cross is going to finally see some action because she's going to be part of this match next week. Nikki Cross has not had a match since November of last year. Not a house show match, not a television match, nothing. So this will be her first in a very long time. Now they are advertising it. I have one question here. They are advertising this match as an 8-person mixed tag team street fight. So my question to you is this. How exactly does one go about enforcing mixed tag rules in a street fight with no rules? How do they intend to do that? What is stopping Nikki Cross from going after Chad Gable? What is stopping Ivy Nile from trying to attack Joe Gacy? It's a street fight, right? There are no rules. We'll see what happens next week. You know, Dominik was on a podcast. He was on the Gorilla Position podcast over in the UK. Or wherever they were. Maybe they were in Berlin. I don't know. But he was on there and they asked him the question about wanting to wrestle. Do you want to wrestle or see yourself in a match possibly at some point with Rhea Ripley? And I brought this up recently on the shows and on TNT. I've said, you know, man, if there was a way to make that match work, I know WWE wouldn't do it. And Dominik said the same thing. They're not going to do it. But he says, yeah, I'm down. Which, I mean, of course he is. I mean, who among us would not want to wrestle Rhea Ripley? But like he's like, yeah, I'm down. Sure. But like, I don't see the company doing it. And that's the thing. I can't imagine that they would let it go that far. But I feel like there's a way that you could make that work where it's not, you know, it's not going to really raise any eyebrows. Like Dominik's going to go in there and, you know, ground and pound this woman. But I just feel like that would be a huge attraction. People would be willing to pay money to see Rhea Ripley beat the shit out of Dominik Mysterio, and you can actually do a singles match out of it. But I'm with Dominik. I just don't think WWE would do it. Maybe when they hit Netflix. But outside of that, no, I don't see it happening. Yeah, Andy Kaufman, exactly. See, Andy Kaufman would have no issue taking out Rhea Ripley. Andy Kaufman made a star out of himself wrestling women, man. The things he was saying about those women, though, he'd be canceled in a second today. Shayna Baszler and Zelina Vega, one-on-one. Zelina, as she was coming out to the ring, she spotted a sign in the crowd and got very emotional. And this was the sign. For those of you wondering why did it look like she was about to cry? The sign said, Michael Trinidad has the best seat in the house, 9/11/01, never forget. So if you were wondering why it nearly brought her to tears, Michael Trinidad was her father, and he died in the 9/11 attacks. And I don't know if it didn't seem like she was expecting to see that sign, but as soon as she got down to ringside, she knew where it was. And she immediately was like pointing and, you know, telling somebody, give me the sign. So clearly that was something that would make anybody emotional. So that answers that. Now they went to break 90 seconds into the match. Vega hit a moonsault after the break. She used a low 619 to knock Zoe Stark off the apron. And then a dive to the outside to take out Sonya Deville. As she re-entered the ring, Baszler caught her with a knee strike and then stacked her for the pin. After the match, the Pure Fusion Collective, still using that name, they beat up Zelina. Lyra Valkyria, Bird Girl, came flying down to the ring, tried to make the save, but they laid her out too. Sonya grabbed a microphone and said there was no man in the crowd who could take them home, and no woman in the back who could take them, period. She dared them to shoot their shot. All right. A little weird, but okay. Promo was fine, but it's just hard to take them seriously when they barely win any matches. I mean, you could talk a big fight. That's cool and all, but put together a string of wins and that'll impress me. So there wasn't really much to like here in this match. Backstage later on, Zelina and Lyra, they were pissed. They were very frustrated, tired of being laid out by the Fusion girls. They knew they needed a partner to take them on, and Lyra noted, Raw next week is in Calgary. She said, I have an idea. So, my first thought, Natty is coming back. We have not seen Natalya on TV since she signed her new contract with WWE. So at least she'll be over with them being in Calgary next week, if in fact it turns out to be her. Backstage, Rhea Ripley was in a knee brace. She had a crutch. Told Priest, though, it's just a precaution, I'll be fine. Priest spoke to Adam Pearce, but said that he was told that Finn Balor would only face him in a tag team match. And since Rhea's hurt, and since he's got no friends, he says, I guess there's not going to be a match. And so you could hear the people in the background in the crowd chanting, yeet. Rhea smiled and told Priest, go tell Pearce to make the match. She said, I have somebody in mind. Priest smirked because it didn't take him very long to figure out who she was referring to. And he told her, let me know what he says. CM Punk was out next with his bracelet. He got his bracelet back safely around his wrist. That wouldn't last very long. By the way, I have to mention this. I feel like it would be malpractice on my part if I didn't mention this. That today, well, it's after midnight now, but let's pretend it's still Monday. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the day that All Elite Wrestling announced that Phil Brooks was terminated from his wrestling and employment contracts with AEW. He was fired. And Tony Khan went on television on Collision and, with a straight face, talked about how he feared for his life. In 30 years of being a professional wrestling fan, never, ever has he feared for his life. His life. In the way that he did that night backstage at Wembley Stadium. A lot has happened in the last year since that time, both for CM Punk and for Tony Khan. It's been a long year, but that was 1 year ago today. Tony Khan feared for his life. I certainly hope that he is feeling a lot safer, walking around with security at all times in the back. It's a very traumatic experience. So Punk got into the ring, and he was in a great mood, of course, because he got the win. Do the Tony Khan eyes. Tony Khan eyes? What are the Tony Khan eyes? Just the wide. I don't drink coffee. If I sat here and drank 6 cups of coffee, I'd have the Tony Khan eyes. Or 6 White Claws. So he tried to get the crowd amped up. This was not a very enthusiastic crowd here in Denver. And I don't want to hear that, oh, it's the altitude. Like, no, this crowd sucked. I'm sorry. But he said he wanted to make a pit stop here in Denver before heading home to his wife and his dog. With Berlin in the rear view, now they can get down to business. He goes, I am a businessman. He says, when I came back to WWE, I said, I'm not here to make friends. He said, I'm here to make money. And there was another man who had a tough battle and came out on top in Berlin. And then he said, that's right, I'm talking about you, Gunther. I swear to God, it didn't, maybe not exactly like that, but it sounded pretty damn close. It sounded to me, and I had to go back and listen to it again, but it sounded to me like he said, the closest I've ever heard anybody say it since Jerry Lawler said it, which is where the joke comes from, that he called him Gunther or Gunther or what, however, whichever way he said it. I said, my ears perked up. I said, wait, There's only one Gunther. He's the almighty Gunther. Get it right. But I laughed. I had a good laugh at the way he said that. He said nothing can replace the chip on his shoulder other than that belt. He said he put Drew McIntyre to sleep. It's time CM Punk woke up as champion. This was the tamest CM Punk. You can replace that T with an L. The tamest CM Punk promo that you will ever hear. But he made it very clear that he's moving on and he wants to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship. He wants Gunther's belt. So he goes outside the ring and he stands up on top of the announce desk and he's posing. And the camera has a really tight shot on him. So you know something's about to happen here. And sure enough, Drew McIntyre shows. We can't see him at first, but Drew McIntyre came out from under the ring and he pulls out, or he sweeps out CM Punk's legs from underneath him and he falls down on the announce desk. And it is Drew McIntyre in a hoodie, as Joe Tessitore said. He didn't wonder, who is that? Before he even pulled the hood down, he's like, that's Drew McIntyre in a hoodie. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. So he starts hammering away on Punk until Wade Barrett gets up from the announce desk and he backs McIntyre off, right? He and McIntyre are tight. They're friends. And he backs McIntyre up and he's trying to calm him down. He's trying to talk some sense into him. McIntyre just sidesteps him though. And he comes charging in and he delivers a Claymore kick to Punk, who was sitting on top of the announce desk. And he kicks him right in the face. Knocks him off the desk. Punk is face down flat on the floor outside. He kicked him so hard he knocked his sneaker off. So now Punk has one shoe on and his fucking Nike sneakers laying on the ground outside. So McIntyre puts him in the ring and he delivers another Claymore kick. Officials pour into the ring. They try to stop him. McIntyre warned them, don't touch me or I will kill you. That's what he said. Then he reached down and he pulled the bracelet off of Punk's wrist. And I'm like, oh my God. Really? Are we doing this? Are we still doing this with the bracelet? He pulls the bracelet off of CM Punk's wrist. And then he rips it apart. And beads fly everywhere. Yes.
I prayed for this and it happened.
Yes. So did I. So did I, Drew. The bracelet is finally destroyed. Finally. So the beads go everywhere. Enough with the fucking bracelet. McIntyre, he takes a fistful of beads and he shoves them down Punk's throat before hitting one final Claymore kick for the road. They finally got McIntyre out of the ring and they brought a stretcher to the ring before they cut to a commercial break. Now, after the break, they show Punk, who is strapped to the spinal board, as they called it. He's strapped to this gurney. And they're carting him out. He's in a neck brace. He's bleeding from the mouth. So now they're following him through the back. And he is going towards the stretcher. Or, I'm sorry, going towards the ambulance. When McIntyre reappears and McIntyre starts hammering away on Punk again, he's got blood pouring out of his mouth. Finally, McIntyre is dragged away by a bunch of officials. First of all, I am glad that they finally ditched the bracelet. I had no issue with them using the bracelet as a story device for SummerSlam. I know some people hated it. They thought it was goofy to build everything around a 50-cent bracelet. But again, it had sentimental value for Punk. That was a month ago. Okay, now it's the beginning of September. We're building to Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell. I don't want a Hell in a Cell feud based around a fucking bracelet for the next 30 days. Thankfully, now the bracelet is gone. Besides, these guys go on the road. That's the new thing now. Fans make them bracelets everywhere they go. Rhea Ripley walks around. Cody Rhodes walks around. Their whole fucking arm soon is going to be filled with nothing but these bracelets. So Punk will just get another one. It's not a big deal. But they were this close to jumping the shark. After Berlin, there was no need for the bracelet anymore. So now it is gone. That's good. Number 2, this was a great angle. I thought that this was a great injury angle, and I thought that it was a great way for them to write off Punk from television for a few weeks, if in fact that's what they're doing. And I can't imagine, I mean, you know, when you're bleeding and you're strapped to a stretcher going into an ambulance, you should not be on television next week. And they did an angle like this on SmackDown 2 months ago, back in July, when McIntyre destroyed Punk on SmackDown. That was when he first took the bracelet. And Punk was gone for at least 2 weeks. Maybe, when did Punk return? Maybe it might have been 2 weeks later. So now they've done this again, and I would expect Punk to be gone at least for next week, if not longer. And it gives him now, when he comes back, a good reason to demand that he get McIntyre back in the ring for one more match, and this time they can do it inside Hell in a Cell. So it should be Punk asking for the match, and not McIntyre. The Gunther tease was just a red herring. We all knew. Oh my God.
Shut the fuck up.
Look at this guy. Fuck that tree. That's right. That's right. You tell him, Uffman. Fuck that tree. Thank you for the 12, brother. But the Gunther tease, that was a red herring. We knew that this was going to a rubber match. McIntyre won the first one. Punk won the second one. Bad Blood is coming up. The anniversary of the very first Bad Blood, the very first Hell in a Cell, back in 97, to the day, October 5th. That's why they're doing Bad Blood again this year. And this is going to be your Hell in a Cell match. So we knew that this was coming. We knew Punk was not going to get Gunther just yet. There is supposedly, though, and this is unconfirmed, but there is talk of CM Punk possibly challenging Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship as soon as Survivor Series in November. I'm very curious if they have, Gunther beat Punk clean, or do they have somebody get involved and cost Punk the match to potentially set up his feud for WrestleMania? Because Seth Rollins wouldn't really make any sense, for him to get involved and do that, unless the idea was to turn Rollins heel, which I don't know if it is or not. Long term, heading into WrestleMania, it's possible. But if they do Punk and Gunther at Survivor Series, that finish is going to be very interesting, because I just can't imagine they would just want to beat him clean like they did with Randy Orton. I don't see that. And Punk is not going to win the championship. I wouldn't think they're going to take the belt off Gunther at Survivor Series. So right now, that's just a rumor. It's unconfirmed, but that is the talk, that perhaps that'll be the World Championship match in November. We had our first of 2 triple threat matches on this show. In the number 1 contenders tournament for the Intercontinental Championship, the winners of both of these matches here tonight move on to the Fatal 4-Way match next Monday. This one had Ilja Dragunov, Dragon Lee, and Dominik Mysterio. These three, they were having a good match. They were having a good one, and it was eerily quiet. They were doing all these big spots that in almost any other city, you'd be getting a big, loud reaction. This was quite the come down, I will say. And this is the disadvantage of doing these international PLEs when you have Raw the following Monday. And you have these great, loud, enthusiastic crowds, and they're singing and they're dancing and they're, chanting, and they're just having a grand old time. And then you come back here, and it really is a crapshoot. Depends where you are, what city you're in. Denver tonight was very quiet. So to go from what we had in Germany on Saturday to what we had here in Denver tonight was, you talk about a 180. It was quite a difference. More than halfway through this, though, this turned into a singles match. After Carlito came out and he shoved Dragon Lee off the top rope, that brought out Damian Priest to rough up Carlito. Dom spotted Priest, so he got out of there. He hopped the barricade. Priest chased them out of the arena. And so we were left with Dragunov and Dragon Lee. Lee hit a sit-out powerbomb for a near fall. Dragunov came back, hit a Death Valley driver in the corner, and then covered Lee. Also a near fall. Dragunov placed Dragon Lee on the ropes, but he fought back, got Dragunov in a Tree of Woe position, and then double stomped him. Dragunov, though, came back, landed Torpedo Moscow, and got the pin to win and to advance into the Fatal 4-Way match next week. When it was just Dragunov and Dragon Lee, that's where this match really excelled. They were, that last stretch there, those last few minutes were the best part of the match. Really good stuff. It just didn't go long enough. That little stretch there at the end with Dragunov and Dragon Lee, that portion was only maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So I wish it was longer. But what we got, I thought was good. Adam Pearce was interviewed by Kathy Kelly, who asked if he had found a replacement for Bronson Reed in the other triple threat match in the Intercontinental title tournament because, for those who don't know, Bronson Reed tested positive for COVID, and he was not medically cleared to perform. I don't know if he had already flown into Denver and was stuck at the hotel. I don't know if he was home. But he had posted on his Instagram earlier a picture of his positive test, and he was obviously very upset because he was going to be, not only was he going to be in this match, but I think based on what we saw tonight, he was probably going to win the fucking thing. So anyway, he got popped for COVID. He was not allowed to be on the show. Not ideal timing coming off that great angle last week with him and Braun Strowman. That was fantastic. From start to finish, but obviously the stuff in the parking lot is what everybody is going to remember, and that big tsunami splash off the concrete barrier onto the car, and the windows blow out. So that was a great angle last week. Speaking of Braun Strowman, in this segment here, guess who walks in? Braun Strowman. And he's got tape, athletic tape, all over his ribs. He's holding his ribs, and they have the makeup on to, you see the bruising on the ribs. And Adam Pearce was surprised to see him. He wasn't supposed to be there after what happened last week. Strowman said that medical told him that if he felt he could go, then it was up to him. And Pearce said that if medical said that and Strowman could look him in the eye and say that he could go, then he would give him the spot in the triple threat match. And Strowman said, I could go. This was dumb. Because here you have the man standing there. I don't care how big and tough and strong he is, right? Braun Strowman, right? Who cares? He's standing there. He's clutching his ribs. He's clearly in pain. He was squashed by a 330-pound man on top of a car last week. Clearly not anywhere near 100%. And in the same segment, we have Adam Pearce talking about how there's a whole locker room of talent waiting for the opportunity. So you have the injured man, and you have plenty of other talent just itching for that spot. But he goes, well, okay, if medical says it's okay, I guess I'll let you wrestle. I'll let you go out there. I'll let you go out there and have the spot. So he gives it to the guy who's half dead. That was dumb. We had Damage Control against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn in a number 1 contenders match for the women's tag team titles and the new women's tag team champions, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They were out there to watch. They got their full entrance and they sat at ringside to observe. There was a scary spot, and I alluded to this earlier on, and it involved Kairi Sane. Kairi Sane, as you know, does the insane elbow, which is a beautiful looking elbow drop, but when she does it, she usually does it to a downed opponent in the ring. She doesn't usually do it to someone who is in a standing position or is outside the ring. So she goes up to the top rope, and Kairi dives off. Isla Dawn, though, pulls Bianca Belair into the line of fire. So now the idea is that Kairi is going to wipe out Bianca by accident. Well, Kairi didn't even touch Bianca. I don't even know how she missed her. But she misses Bianca, goes right past her, and smashes face first into the edge of the announce desk. Bianca goes down anyway. She sells it anyway. She goes down. Kairi goes down. That left Io by herself in the ring with Alba Fire. Io got sent into the middle rope. Isla Dawn was there outside to reach up, and she draped Io neck first across the middle rope. Referee's back was turned. He didn't see it. Alba and Isla then hit their gory bomb flatliner combo finish for the win. So that gives us now the rubber match between the Unholy Union and Bianca and Jade. That match is going to take place on Raw next week for the women's tag team titles. Because they're one win apiece, right? The Unholy Union won at Clash at the Castle. Bianca and Jade won in Berlin. This will be the third and final match between these teams next week. So it makes sense in that regard, but I still would have preferred Damage Control just for a little bit of variety here. As it turned out, it might have been for the better that things worked out the way they did, because Kairi Sane messed herself up badly on that dive. She got back into the ring because there was a post-match confrontation between Damage Control and Bianca and Jade. So Kairi did get back up. It's not like she was unconscious on the floor. She got up. She got into the ring with Io. We had the little face-off here. And her eye was even more messed up than Dominik's earlier. And this is not a great shot, but it's the best one I could find. This is bad enough. But I'm sure there'll be a clearer shot that comes out. But yeah, you could tell just from this image here. Look at this. I mean, she was busted open. So she had blood across her face. Her eye was filled with blood. And you could tell it was already black and blue. You see the swelling. Again, that's not a great shot, but the eye was already swelling up. She was a little beast, though. I mean, she's rubbing the blood all over her face, when she's face-to-face with Bianca and Jade. If she didn't break her nose, I hope she didn't break her orbital bone. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, that's either a broken nose or a broken orbital bone, if anything is broken. It looked bad. And if she ends up missing time, and I don't see how she's not going to miss at least a few weeks, I would be shocked. And then Damage Control would be down to 1 because Dakota Kai is already out with an injury. So Dakota's out. Kairi is probably going to be out. And that leaves Io all by herself for now. But yeah, she messed herself up pretty good on that one. And I just hope that it ends up not being too serious. But it looked pretty serious there in that image. So that was scary. We have the World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther himself. Finally made an appearance here 2 hours into this show. He came to the ring and he boasted about WWE setting its all-time gate record in Berlin. Suckers. And they all cheered, yay! Thank you for overcharging. I had people write into me because I made a comment about it during my review. And I said, man, I wonder how much these tickets they were charging for. Because they have 13,000 people in the building in Berlin on Saturday, which is a healthy crowd. But I mean, 13,000 is not that many people compared to other sellouts that WWE has had. They've had plenty of arena shows of like 20,000 or more. So how do they have the highest gate record, like the highest grossing gate in WWE history anywhere in the world off 13,000 people? These ticket prices were insane. And look, if the demand is there, they will sell those tickets. So that's WWE being a business. And they said, well, there's a lot of pent up demand here. We've never had a PLE in Germany before. And I think it was sold out. If it wasn't sold out, it was close to sold out. But I'm just like, I'm looking at these ticket prices and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, especially if you're a family, you got 2 kids, let's say you're 4 people, 5 people, like you'll go bankrupt. But they go out there on Saturday and they're like, hey, guess what, everybody? We set the new gate record. Everybody cheers. I don't get it. So anyway, he talked about how he also beat the very best version of Randy Orton. He didn't get to say much else before Sami Zayn returned. And he got the first noticeably big reaction of anybody on this show since Rhea Ripley came out in the opening segment. So Sami talked about how the Intercontinental Championship has long been considered a workhorse title in this company, and he name-dropped several legends that have held this championship over the years, including, and starting with, he said, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, ooh yeah, big pop for the Macho Man. He mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, big pop. He mentioned The Rock, he mentioned Triple H, he mentioned Shawn Michaels. He said they all have something in common. They all use that title as a stepping stone to the World Heavyweight Championship. Sami said that Gunther did the same thing, and now he intends to do it as well because he wants the World Heavyweight title. They were teasing this earlier in the year. There were some segments where Sami, I think he did one of those sit-down interviews in the empty arena before the show started with Jackie probably. And he talked about how, he's never been a World Heavyweight Champion before. He was in NXT, but they don't count that. That's why here they're talking about how, Gunther has only one loss, only one blemish on his record. And I'm like, really? Like, we're just ignoring NXT now, even though NXT is airing on the same network. And, you mix and match members of the main roster in NXT all the time. But I guess we're just ignoring that now. So, yeah. He's never been a World Heavyweight Champion before. Now he wants to be the World Heavyweight Champion. Gunther said that Zayn was right about him and others using that title as a stepping stone. He said that when Sami had the title, he stepped down. At this point, the fans began to give Gunther the what treatment during this promo. Gunther then teased giving him what he wants, and he goes, my answer is no. And he left the ring. He got, I'd say, about halfway up the aisle. And Sami Zayn is in the ring, and he tells him to stop. He said, I've watched your entire career, and I've never, in your entire career, have I seen you back down from a challenge before. And he questioned why he was backing down now. He says maybe it's because Gunther knows that since he arrived in WWE, that Sami is the only person to have beaten him. Which is true as far as the main roster is concerned. That is absolutely untrue if you include NXT, which they are not doing. But that got Gunther's reaction. And Sami said that he is coming for that title. So that answers the question that I had coming into the show tonight. I wasn't sure what they were going to do with Gunther next. I wasn't even sure, frankly, he was going to defend the World Heavyweight title at the next PLE. Now we have an answer. We know Sami Zayn now is going to be next in line for a shot at that title. Make him earn it. I like that they had, Gunther's like, no. Not interested. You don't deserve it. He should try to make Sami earn it. Or Sami will just continue to just kind of grind his gears and try to get under his skin in the same way that Gunther has done with his opponents over the last couple of months, right? He did it with Orton, insulting his family. He did it with Damian Priest, insulting his upbringing and calling him street trash. Sami's going to give it back to him maybe and keep bringing up the fact that you are afraid of me. You fear me. I'm the only man who has beaten you. You have tasted defeat at the hands of only one person, and that person is me. And you can't beat me. And eventually, Gunther just relents and gives him what he wants. So there's a couple of different ways that they can go with this. It's strange, though. It's strange how only a few weeks ago, Jey Uso was on TV talking to Sami about how they're going to go after the tag team titles and they're going to challenge the Judgment Day. And then it just got dropped. They just completely pivoted in a different direction because then Jey declared for the Intercontinental title tournament to become number one contender. Sami disappeared altogether after he lost, to Braun Breaker. He just vanished. Now Sami is back and now he's going after Gunther and he's going after the World Heavyweight Championship. So he's got his own thing going. Jay's got his own thing going. And the whole tag team title thing has just been dropped. So clearly there was a change in the creative at some point in the last few weeks where they, for whatever reason, and maybe because they felt like, hey, we need somebody to challenge, Gunther at the next show, whatever it was, you can almost track it to the week where creative just changed. Now, maybe they'll come back to it at some point and they'll go after the tag titles, but right now there's no mention of that whatsoever. So they have moved away from that. And also the other question is, why now? Why are they doing this match now? This is a match that I pitched months ago. Like, you could do this at WrestleMania next year. And just because they're going to do it now doesn't mean you still can't come back with it again at WrestleMania. You could, but I think this makes it a lot less likely. The reason they're doing it now is, I think, because they want Gunther to be able to get in the ring with the man who beat him and put him over strong. by having him get that win back. Tell that story where Sami can legitimately lay claim to the fact that, you know what, I may be the only guy on this roster who could beat this guy. I'm the only one who's figured him out. Pinned his shoulders to the mat. There could be some great drama in that match. But in the end, Gunther beats him, lays that to rest, and gets put over strong. I think that's really all this is about. Getting him in the ring with somebody who can help put him over even stronger than he already is. And that's fine. And you know we're going to get a great match out of it. But I would be lying if I said part of me wasn't a little disappointed that they didn't hold off on this until WrestleMania, because this could have been the World Heavyweight Championship match of WrestleMania. I do believe that. I believe you could have had Sami Zayn win the Royal Rumble. Some people might scoff at that, but I think I would have made a legitimate claim to Sami Zayn being one of the favorites to win the Men's Royal Rumble match in 2025. I'm a lot less likely to do that now that I know he's getting this shot now, but you could have done that. And you could have had him win the Chamber, and you could have had him go to WrestleMania, and 1 year later, right? 1 year later, tell the same story. I beat you last year. I did it once. I could do it again. And he either wins or he loses. It almost doesn't even matter. I mean, in an ideal scenario, he wouldn't have beaten Gunther at WrestleMania this year. And I would have saved that first win over him for when he won the World Heavyweight title. And they decided to go a different way with it. But there's still a story there, I think, that you could tell. But it's going to be a great match. I'm looking forward to it.
I am the
Shut the fuck up.
Fuck that tree. Hey, the Juliet. Thank you for the $12 Death to the Learning Tree. I'm going to call it now Death to the Learning Tree. You never know when the Learning Tree might return, though. You'll notice he was back on Friday night, so you never know. You never know. Jackie Redmond interviewed Jey Uso in the back. Jey was cutting his usual promo. He was yeeting when Braun Breaker interrupted, and Braun reiterated that a member of Jey's family would never beat a member of his family. He said that he was giving Jey one opportunity to walk away. Walk away, and you can go after Dom's sloppy seconds, he said. If Jey went after his title, he goes, he would lose. And Jey told him, thanks for the advice, rookie. He said Braun had his attention now. He said he's going to win the tournament. He's going to win the Intercontinental title. And in the process, he's going to kick his ass. Interesting that he was the only one, Jey was, to get promo time with the champ. So they really want you to think that Jey Uso is going to win this number one contenders match next week. And he may well do so, but maybe they want you to think that, and then they have a different plan in mind. But none of the other guys involved in that match next week got face-to-face time on TV tonight with Braun Breaker, but Jey Uso. The final triple threat number one contenders match had Sheamus, Ludwig Kaiser, and Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman, who hobbled out with his injured ribs, holding his ribs, either that or he just had some really bad Taco Bell, but whatever it was, he comes walking out. He definitely does not look 100%. Good job, medical. Good job. So Strowman charged Kaiser at ringside in the opening minute. Kaiser sidestepped him, and Braun, who has made a career out of running into things and through things, that was kind of the running joke when he was feuding with Roman Reigns many years ago. He was always running into something, whether it was the ring post, whether it was a door, whether it was the back of an ambulance. Here he ran through the barricade into the timekeeper's area, and of course he was selling his ribs, and they went to commercial. After a break, Kaiser, he does that move where he gets the running start on the outside of the ring, and as he comes rounding the bend and he's charging in, out of nowhere, a flying office chair just comes in from out of nowhere and strikes Kaiser in the face and knocks him down. This was almost as good as the time that Braun did that to Roman Reigns. Not quite as that. That to me is still like the pinnacle of this spot when they've done this in the past. I just remember laughing my ass off. It's just such a great spot. You see this giant, like cushioned office chair just flying through mid. These things are fucking heavy, man. Like I have a gaming chair here. Funny enough, I don't use it. I don't even game, but I have a gaming chair. It's very comfortable. This thing, if I tell you how heavy this thing is, I have no idea when the time comes that when I get out of here and I move, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this chair. Putting this thing together, it was a gigantic pain in the ass. I don't know how I even did it. It took a couple of hours. I don't ever want to go through that process ever again. And just the prospect of having to disassemble this and then reassemble it is just something I'm not willing to do. So when the day comes, I'm going to have to hope that this fits through the doorway. This thing is so heavy. I can't imagine those chairs weigh much less than this. And Braun Strowman is just launching it through midair like it's nothing. With bad ribs, no less. So in the ring, Strowman now charges Sheamus, who moved, which led to Strowman crashing into the corner because, as I said, Braun Strowman runs into things a lot, so he ran into the corner. Sheamus hit the 10 beats to Strowman, then knocked him off the apron with a knee strike. Kaiser hit Sheamus with a Kaiser roll for a 2 count. Sheamus then hit Kaiser with a brogue kick to no reaction. This was, I cannot think in all the years that Sheamus has been in this company, a brogue kick that got a negative reaction the way that this one did. Like, nothing. Like, that could have been the finish of the match, and what an underwhelming finish that would have been. But he connected on the brogue kick, had him beat when Pete Dunne showed up, and he dragged Sheamus out of the ring, hit him with a shillelagh. Kaiser is watching this from the ring. He's in the corner, he's watching this, he's got a big smile on his face. Doesn't realize that Braun Strowman now is charging in from behind, squashes him in the corner, hoists him up onto his shoulder, hits a running power slam, and he pins him to advance to the Fatal 4-Way next week. This was even shorter than the other triple threat match. This one went, I think I had it around 7 minutes. So not a terribly long match. So I guess now that we see how this thing played out here, I guess we can surmise from this that Bronson Reed was going to win this match because Braun Strowman took his spot. So Bronson Reed was going to win this match before he got bounced. I just don't see him, if he did, I don't see him going on to win the entire thing. So even if Reed had advanced, my guess is, here's my guess as to what would have happened this week had he not popped for COVID. Reed would have been in this match. He would have won. Same thing would have happened. Pete Dunne gets involved, costs Sheamus the match. Bronson Reed advances. He goes to the 4-Way next week. Braun Strowman, with his ribs, not medically cleared. He doesn't even appear on the show tonight. They give him the week off. Because it's ridiculous after what they did last week that he was back on TV this week and in the ring. It's ridiculous. I have to imagine he was not meant to be on the show tonight. Give him at least a week off. Come back in 2 weeks. He would have gotten involved in that Fatal 4-Way. He would have cost Bronson Reed. They would have fought off. And that's probably how that would have played out. And then we get the rematch, which I think is inevitable, between Reed and Strowman. That's how I think this was going to play out. Now, next Monday, the field is set. We have our 4. It is going to be Braun Strowman. It's going to be Jey Uso, Pete Dunne, and Ilja Dragunov. The winner will go on to challenge Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. I'm looking at these 4. I can honestly see any of the 4 except for Pete Dunne winning that match next week and challenging Braun Breaker. And when I really look closer, Jey Uso's the favorite. But to me, it's either Jey Uso or it's Ilja Dragunov. Because if we assume Reed is going to be back on the show next week, I think he costs Braun. He has to, unless he's not cleared still. How does he not get involved in that match? It's a Fatal 4-Way, so there's no disqualifications. He's going to be upset that of all people to take his spot, they gave it to this fucking guy after what I did to him. The only way Bronson Reed does not get involved in this match next week is if he's still not medically cleared, if he's still testing positive. That's the only way. So take Braun out of the picture. It's either Jay or Ilja Dragunov. It's going to be one of those two. Going on to lose to Braun Breaker. The main event of this show was Damian Priest and Jey Uso against Finn Balor and JD McDonough in a non-title match, you know, at Backlash only a few months ago. Jey Uso and Damian Priest were wrestling for the World Heavyweight Championship, and here on this show, they're tag team partners. So Jey hit a dive out of the ring. He was getting beat up, though, when they came back from the commercial break. How? Why? Who knows? They didn't tell us. He fought back, though. He made the hot tag to Priest. Priest sent McDonough out of the ring, and so Balor hit him with a sling blade. There was a cheap shot by McDonough that allowed the Judgment Day to take over, but Jey made a blind tag. Priest hit a double clothesline. Jey then hit a double flying crossbody block to take both members down off the top rope. So Jey super kicked both guys. He speared McDonough. He went up for the Uso splash. Who shows up but Liv Morgan, the women's world champion, and Liv Morgan crotches him on the top rope. Balor tags in, hits Jey with a sling blade, hits him with a shotgun drop kick, hits him with a double stomp off the top rope. McDonough tags in, hits a big moonsault off the top. He covers Jey. Priest, though, scoots in. He breaks up the pin. Liv then gets up on the apron to complain. Now here comes Rhea Ripley, who comes out with her music, of course, and she's got her crutch. And Liv Morgan sees this. She sees that she is incapacitated, and she's laughing and gets in her face. Rhea smirks and uses her crutch as a weapon and begins pounding Liv Morgan. So she is pounding her and pounding her with this crutch. Liv ends up escaping through the crowd. A limping Rhea chases her away, while a simping Jey Uso spears Finn Balor, and Priest then gave McDonough a razor's edge. Jey followed with a splash to McDonough and picked up the win for his team. Say it with me, champs are chumps. As has been the case with this new Judgment Day now ever since they formed. This is quite the weak faction that they have here. But what they did was they set up some matches for next week for the big season premiere, including the 4-way and the women's tag team title match and the Wyatt Sicks in that mixed tag team street fight. So those are the big matches set up for next week. Joe Tessitore, again, I thought he did good for his first night. There's certainly room for him to improve and get more comfortable, find his voice, you know, kind of ratchet up the volume a little bit. He was a little low, I thought, for some of these matches. But I think he's going to do fine. The show itself, though, very much middle of the road. It was not great. It was not terrible. It was right there in the middle. But there was a great angle with Punk and McIntyre that, if nothing else, you should definitely check out. What did you think of Raw from Denver? Let's go to the poll and find out what people on X are saying. And they are saying that this is a 69% thumbs up show. What are you going off on in the chat? That's what she was doing. She was pounding her. She was pounding her with that crutch. What do you want me to say? What's wrong with you people? Get your minds out of the gutter. 69%. As soon as I say that, I say 69. 20% thumbs in the middle and 10% thumbs down. You can go vote, you horny little shits, on X at Solomonster. Go vote. Good Lord. Good Lord. All you degenerates. All you degenerates. You know that? Let's go to the super chats here. See what you guys are talking about. Can't take you people anywhere, can I? All right, here we go. Let's take it back to the beginning here. It's a light night. It's a light night, but that's okay. That's all right. Let's check out the messages that we do have. And we'll start from the beginning with The Real CS. Thank you for the $4.99. Real CS says, if Roman never got COVID at the start of 2022 and day one went as planned, how different would WrestleMania 38 have been? Who do you think would have faced Cody? Yeah, there was a lot of talk about what the plans were or were not. The championship. I had heard different things. You know, one thing I had heard is that Seth Rollins was supposed to win the WWE title, but I also heard that, and it might have been Fightful at the time, that Big E was going to win and Big E was going to take the championship into WrestleMania. So I'm not sure which of those two is accurate. I've always believed that Rollins was supposed to win the championship. If Seth Rollins was the WWE champion, that takes him out of the picture for wrestling Cody. Who wrestles Cody? I don't know. I'm trying to think back on who else was on that roster and didn't have another big match that could have made sense. And I'm not sure. So, but Roman and Brock, the way things worked out, it really did change creatively. It changed history in many ways because that's what led to the champion against champion unification match. And we had the undisputed champion when Roman won both belts. I don't think that would have happened. Had he not gotten sick, Vince wanted to just do something big. So he threw Brock in the fucking 4-way and made it a 5-way and he won the championship. And poor Big E, I'll never forget Big E outside the ring. Just sitting there, his run after what Brock did to Kofi. He did it to Big E. Poor guy. He also says, in my opinion, having Braun take Reed's spot is stupid. He went through a car roof a week ago, and he's back. They made last week's angle pointless. Yeah, it was stupid. It was stupid. He should not have been on the show. I'm guessing he was not supposed to be on the show. They had to come up with a plan B. You know what, though? You could have just had somebody different win the match. Arabian Night. Mr. Tessitore giving me Adnan Virk vibes. Can we get We Want Morrow trending? Should have kept Corey as play-by-play. Maybe try Biggie out as color. Nah, Tessitore is not as bad as Adnan Virk, and I do think he'll get better. You can't judge it after a week. For any of these guys, you can't judge it fully after 1 week. But even after 1 week, I thought he did fine. Not perfect, but fine. LC Killer 17. I don't see Judgment Day as a threat. To me, they look like a bunch of idiots. Can't win a match. What the hell? Yeah, it's basically a limp version of what the Judgment Day used to be. It's an impotent version of the Judgment Day. That's what it is. Pisco 95. I pray to all the gods that Kyrie is all right. That spot was pretty ugly, and her face after looked like something out of a snuff film. Damage control is cursed. We need to get a prayer circle going around Io to protect her at all costs. I'm very worried about Io. We need to make sure that she is safe. Fire Panda. So you have to make a Bullet Club for WWE. No, I don't. Using the old members and 3 new members. The new members can come for... I'm not going to get into the weeds on this. Who do I choose? Well, I'll tell you what. From the old members, AJ would be a part of it. AJ and Finn Balor would be a part of it. So there you go. AJ and Finn Balor, and as far as new members of Bullet Club from WWE, I don't know. Austin Theory? What do you think about Austin Theory? Trying with him again, putting him in Bullet Club. What do you think about that? What do you think about trying to think who else would be a good fit for Bullet Club? I hate even doing that because it's like It's kind of like, oh, if you were going to do a new NWO. I don't want to do a new NWO. The NWO was the NWO. The NWO doesn't work in 2024. Even Bullet Club, to me, just feels like old news. Like, I would just start something new with a different name. Look at all the times they tried to reboot the Horsemen. Right? It was like failure each time. Each new time they would try it, it got worse and worse. Jake Jones, it was predictable, but still loved the Punk segment. Thanks for the great review, brother. Hey, Jake, thank you, man. Thank you very much. Phil Dog. What's going on, Phil Dog? Says, would you do Julia versus Roxanne Perez for the title on October 1st and Stephanie against Kalani Jordan for the Women's North American title on the 8th? I would consider it, but I don't know what her visa status is. The reason we haven't seen Stephanie yet is because I don't know that she's got her working visa yet. I don't know how long that may take. So I would not necessarily assume she'll even be available for those shows. Project Libertad, amazing how Punk and Drew made this cheap bracelet look more meaningful than Jon Moxley did with the IWGP title. Rob G, rest in peace to Johnny Goudreau and his brother. Tragic. Yes. And another story where the drunk driver survives and the other people don't. Doesn't it just make your blood boil? 99% of the time, that just seems to be the way it always works out. Some drunken fucking asshole gets behind the wheel. Somebody else is run down, somebody else is killed, but the drunk driver makes it out perfectly fine. S. McPhee, 101. You should make a super chat for Jacob Fatu's I Love You Solo. It'll feel like the yin to the learning tree's yang when it goes up. You know what? It's not a bad idea. I just have to find it, though. I have to find one that's clean, that, you know, it's like nothing in the background. Maybe. Alex with the 5. I am a huge Cody fan, but Brother Solo, I cannot stand another Cody versus Solo match. The next 5 weeks of SmackDown television will be painful to watch. It won't be if you listened to my Bash in Berlin review, where I suggested they do the match on SmackDown next Friday. On the first USA SmackDown. Don't even wait until Bad Blood. You do it next Friday. And then if Kevin Owens is going to turn, you build to an Owens-Cody rematch at Bad Blood. That's what they should do. WWE Wrestling and Gaming. Buy or sell on the microphone, John Cena and Randy Orton. John Cena. Buy on John Cena, sell on Randy Orton. Slappin' 45. What are we slapping here? Do you think a Howdy versus Gable casket match at Bad Blood would work? It would be a fun way to finally put an end to the feud, and it would fit the character. I'm a mark for the Buried Alive concept. I'd do a Buried Alive match. Why not? Build the dirt mound. It'll be like old times, man. It'll be like old times. We'll have a Buried Alive match on the card. We'll have a Hell in a Cell match on the card. The Real CS, I sent you a mailbag question for the podcast, and you're probably going, I'm crazy when you're here, but it's just my opinion. Considering some of the crazy shit that I see, it's probably not all that crazy. Devin from NJ, has Solo ever had any paranormal experiences? I have a paranormal experience every time I'm on here with you guys. As an adult, no.
Look everyone, it's Samoa Bro.
Fire Panda. Thank you for the Samoa, bro. Uffman Entertainment, this is WWE. Watch the bracelet magically return next week when Drew pulls it out of his pocket. Hisco95, with all the conversation about good or bad title reigns, what makes a good title reign in your opinion? Is it the storylines, the quality of the matches, the number of defenses, or something else? I think it's a little bit of everything you just mentioned. I think it's all that, but it's the storylines and it's the quality of the matches above all. When I think back to a quality title reign, I want to be able to pick out at least a handful of really great matches that I want to go back and watch and I feel have great replay value. But I want there to be a great story too. I want there to be a great story, whether it's just the individual programs, if there's one really hot rivalry, maybe they trade the belt back and forth, but whatever it may be, I think those are the two most important things. Sean D, them beads gonna be hell to poop out for Punk. Dom Joseph. Is Drew and Punk Hell in a Cell main eventing Bad Blood? Well, I'm trying to think of the potential world championship matches. I'm thinking, Gunther and Sami and Cody and KO are probably going to be the two title matches on that show. If it's me, it's kind of like All Out. I have my All Out predictions that are up right now on the channel for Saturday. I believe that Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page should headline the show. I think they should close the pay-per-view. That cage match, you talk about a grudge match. But there's such a rich story with those two that goes back almost a full year. And just the rivalry, the hatred between them, and I'm sure the brutality of the match itself, even though there's no championships on the line, even though Bryan Danielson is defending the world title, the cage match should headline the show. I kind of feel the same way about Punk and McIntyre. I feel like as long as this feud has been going on for, and if it's going to be Hell in a Cell, hopefully the only one on the show, it should probably close the show, yeah. Yeah, I think it should. Mr. Team Bring It. What is one finisher that you would not take? A finisher. A finisher that I would not take. I was going to say there's several moves. There's the pit stop from the Nasty Boys. There's the stink face from Rikishi, but those aren't finishers, though. You know what I wouldn't take? I would not take a border toss from Hernandez. He was reckless with that shit. That's one move I would not take. Sean D, why did you just bark Strowman's name like that? I don't know. Because I felt like it. The Juliet, frustrated with Microborg and taking my frustration out on a learning tree. Fuck Microborg and oof on Kyrie's injury. What is Microborg? The hell is that? Is that a game? I don't know what that is. Mr. Team Bring It. What is your theme song? If you were a wrestler. I have a theme song right now. I have a theme song as the commissioner of House of Glory. It's Tooth and Nail by Foreigner. That's my theme song. But if I could pick my theme song from scratch as a wrestler, what would it be? Yeah, I'd probably go with like Hall & Oates. Like Out of Touch and Adult Education are the two best Hall & Oates songs. Those are my two favorites. So I know it would put me in a great mood every time I come down to the ring, but there's a lot of great options. I mean, what are you looking for? You're looking for like a rock song? Are you looking for something that's more poppy, energetic? You're looking for something dark? Maybe come down to the ring to some dark synth wave. I don't know. Panda King. I guess Odyssey Jones just got released, and I don't know how I feel about this. Side note, keep up the great work, Solo. Well, I mean, that is just speculation, unless you're seeing something I haven't seen yet. Oh, wait. Wait a minute. Nope. No, that's different. That's something else. Yeah, I don't think we have any confirmation of that yet. It appears that something is afoot. So it appears something is definitely going on. I don't know what his status is, so we'll have to just wait and find out. Fisco95, Kyrie just posted on X. She's fine, thankfully. I'd be surprised if she is. That certainly did not look good. Arabian Night, interesting WWE giving both KO and maybe Sami world title programs 3 or 4 months before their deals expire in January. Was hoping that Sami would win the Royal Rumble. Are you implying that they are being given world championship matches to try to keep them, or that they're getting them out of the way now because the company thinks that they're leaving? Because I don't think that's the case. But that is an interesting observation. Mr. Team Bring It 123. Can Ryback make a difference in Oh, Mr. Team Bring It. That was funny. Like that was a good one. You got me there. You got me there. That was funny. He made up funny. Look at that. Lewis with the $10 super chat. If Orton takes the belt off of Cody before the Royal Rumble, would you have Cody and Cena be the last two in the Rumble and the loser wins the Chamber, and have Cena Orton or Cena Gunther and Cody faces the other one at WrestleMania? You could do that. You could do Cena, Gunther, and Cody and Orton at WrestleMania, but then where does The Rock fit in? Because you know The Rock's going to want to be on that card in Las Vegas, right? So that's the one little problem with that plan, I think. Fire Panda, now what about making a new Horseman group? Now, how about we don't do that? The Horsemen are a product of the past. It worked then. It just wouldn't be the same. We had like a modern day Horseman in 2003 with Evolution. That was kind of like a modern day Horseman, but even then, like, you know, I mean, Evolution was good, but Horsemen are the Horsemen, man. Horsemen in 2024, I don't know. You have to come up with a different name for it. Otherwise, people are just going to constantly make comparisons, and it's just not going to work. It's like saying, hey, you know what? We're going to take Stone Cold Steve Austin, since we own the name, and we're going to give it to somebody else. We're going to have a new Stone Cold. We're going to have a new Undertaker. It just doesn't work, man. It just doesn't work. RDS. Glad you answered my question about Cena. Well, you're welcome. Retro KOH, Solomonster theme song, Hall & Oates, covered by Def Rebel, sung by Jim Cornette. Oh, God, no. Last thing we need is Cornette singing. Ugh. Please. Please, no. The Juliet Microborg is what I call Microsoft when I am mad. It's kind of weird, but okay. Call it Microborg. Rizzo. Oh, God, Dan Matha. Oh, God, I haven't heard that name in forever. The Winston Slip says Dan Matha is the new Stone Cold. My God. Last time I saw Dan Matha was on NXT. They were still running at Full Sail. And all I remember is, man, this guy, the back knee on this guy. Holy shit. It's like his back knee had back knee. Dan Matha. Wasn't Dan Matha the one who Samoa Joe on one episode came out and just like destroyed him? It might have been his first appearance on NXT. Rizzo, Odyssey finally debuts, starts an interesting angle, and now possibly is gone. What the fuck? What the fuck indeed? I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on there. It's just bizarre. And Boney, with the Hog Show being in Chicago, any chance you're going to visit Mindy's Bakery? It's a mile down from Hog's location. You know what? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I might just have to do that. I don't know if I'll have time. But if I do, I might have to consider a trip to Mindy's. Wouldn't that be funny? Are they open? I know some days they're not open. Drew McIntyre went there, I think on a Monday. They weren't open. Are they open on a Thursday? Anyway, Boney, thank you. Your suggestions are welcome, because I realize I'm landing like 3 hours before I could check into my hotel. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. So, anyway, I'll figure it out. I got a show to get ready for. Yeah, no, Thursday, I will be in Chicago, flying to Chicago Thursday morning. Thursday night, first House of Glory show ever in Chicago. And we got a great card, too. We're going to have Dijak making his debut against Mike Santana, Mustafa Ali against Zilla Fatu, Kylie Ray is debuting against Megan Bain, who is incredible. It's going to be a fun show, man. We got Robbie Eagles, who hasn't wrestled for Hog in 5 years. Robbie Eagles is going to be on the card, so it's going to be a good night. And you should try to make it out if you can. We got general admission. That's all that's left, but not much. So if you're in the area, come on out. Come on out and check out the show. It's going to be fun. All right, so let's see here. Take a look at what we got. We got 462 likes. Thank you, guys. Let me just see here. Mike Johnson has an update on Kairi Sane. For those who have asked for an injury update, all that PW Insider has been able to confirm is that she received stitches backstage from the medical team after her match. If there was any larger injury, we have not been able to confirm what it might be as of this writing. So that was from, that was from well over an hour ago. So it sounds like Kairi has avoided significant injury, which is amazing. I don't know how, but that's good news. If that's the case, that is good news. Cameron Spencer, what's going on, Cameron? $4.99. Saw movie fans are bloodthirsty, blood-sucking vampires. They're sick and mentally ill for supporting barbaric movies. They are deeply disturbed. Oh, Saw movie. I read that wrong. I thought you saw something. I was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. So he thinks that fans of the Saw movies are bloodthirsty, blood-sucking vampires who are mentally ill and are disturbed. You see, that's how I feel about the Hostel movies. The first Saw movie is actually a great thriller. As they went on and on and on, and I didn't see the last one, it did just become basically torture porn, which is what it was. The first one, though, is great. I don't lump the first one into the same category. The first one was actually really good. But yeah, that is kind of random. I mean, clearly you feel a certain way about this. And I appreciate you sharing that, but yeah, that is very random, though. You know what I did not see? I did not see the Book of Spiral, whichever one had Chris Rock in it. I didn't see that. Should I? Is it worth it for me to go back and watch? As you ponder that question, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen,
oh,
it is
big
now
show.
Time to be the booker.
Hey, Darren, what's going on? Darren is watching from the Caribbean. I wish I was in the Caribbean right now. I could definitely use a Caribbean vacation. So thank you, Darren. Look at this. Look at Big Show. Poor Big Show, man. This guy. This big boss man was an absolute menace. I posted the tweet earlier. Today was 25 years, the 25-year anniversary of Big Boss Man serving Al Snow his own dog and feeding his own dog to him on TV, all because he wanted the hardcore title. And here, he is dragging the corpse, the casket of Big Show's dead father across an actual cemetery that they destroyed. And Bruce Pritchard found this hilarious, apparently. The cemetery did not, and banned them from ever shooting anything there ever again. Whatever cemetery this was in Connecticut. But these two things both happened in the fall of 1999. So whatever it was about the fall of 99, Big Show, or Big Boss Man rather, he was on a whole other level. That's a whole other level of heel. Hey, Retro KOH, I saw the Book of Spiral. You can avoid it. Don't waste your time. Well, I know Cameron's not going to be watching it, that's for sure. If Cameron had his way, he would pull it, and nobody would be able to watch. That's how passionately he feels about this. All right, we begin with Akam and Razar. Hey, there's the Quad Squad. Akam and Razar, AOP, who also may be shit out of luck with the storyline they were in if Odyssey Jones is no longer in the company. AOP are going to be taking on Enzo and Big Cass. Were they in NXT at the same time? That match may have actually happened. That match, it might have happened. I don't know. Enzo and Cass against AOP. Why does it look like Cass is trying to dig out some earwax from his ear? What is going on here? What is going on in this image? I'm soliciting feedback here. How are we feeling? I'm leaning towards a buzz on this. It was on NXT, right? Yeah, I thought that match happened. Clearly, it made a huge impression on me because I don't really have any memory of it. So that is a fail. Got water in the ear? Nah. You got water in the ear, you got to go like this. You got to smack yourself until the water falls out. That's what you got to do. All right, women's Be the Booker. Ooh, all right. We got Melina doing the splits for us here in Be the Booker. Melina Perez. And it will be Melina Perez going one-on-one with Zoe Stark. What is going on here? Is this the best we can do? You know how many women I have in this? I mean, do you know how many women I have? There's a lot. We could do better than that. I hope we can end on a high note here. Deputy Dog says Zoe ruined it. Poor Zoe. Poor Zoe. That's the same thing I said when I watched House of Cards. All right, be the book. Okay, look at this. The tribal chief. The head of the table. Roman Reigns, the former undisputed WWE champion. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. He's probably got a 2K score of like 98. This is an easy slam dunk, you would think, right? Roman Reigns one-on-one with Alberto Del Dipshit. Ah. Unbelievable. Alberto Del Dipshit ruins the main event of Be the Booker. This is just... I don't know what match he was in here, but apparently he was very excited. All right. So let's get that off the screen here. You know, I saw that Alberto, our friend Alberto over here, apparently beat Nick Nemeth recently, I think last week, to win the AAA Mega title. So even still, after all these years, Del Rio is still beating Dolph Ziggler. Redo? No, there's no redo. There is no redo. There is no redo. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, if we had a super chat night like we had on Saturday, we might have a redo, but no, it's not on the cards for tonight. Well, look, they can't all be winners, right? I've killed the territory? I guess so. I guess so. I have killed the Be the Booker territory. Marquand says, Roman, Solo, I don't work Mondays. That's true. I actually got Roman Reigns to work a match, and that's the best opponent I could come up with for him. Wednesday night, we'll get to try again because we have the Dynamite post show coming up. It's already the go home show. I feel like we just had the go home show last week or the week before. Now we have the go home show for Dynamite on Wednesday because we have All Out coming up on Saturday. I'll be on TNT tomorrow night, of course, on the other channel. We have Dynamite on Wednesday. I'll be in Chicago for Hog on Thursday. Back here for SmackDown on Friday, the final Fox show. We'll celebrate. Pay-per-view on Saturday night. Podcast on Sunday. A lot of content coming your way. I sure do appreciate the support. If you missed it, go check out episode 877 of the podcast. A great show that went up for your listening pleasure. And leave a like if you have not already done so on your way out. Thank you, Nail. Nail says he loves Solo. I love you, Solo. I love you too. Come on back Wednesday night. Be well. Stay safe. Labor Day's over, slackers. It's time to get back to work. The work never stops. See you on TNT. And then back for the Dynamite review on Wednesday night. Until then, take care.